Well, I was pleasantly surprised when everybody showed up. Mark told me the class started at 1:30 and I was getting ready to pack up and go home. So that's what I get for not reading the day's schedule.
Thanks for staying.
Yeah, I'm glad I hung around to see some people. The good news is I've got some stuff to show you. The bad news is we still don't have the final modifications from the state. Molly was supposed to have those about a month ago, then she was going to have them a couple weeks ago, then she was going to have them this week, and then she was going to have them today before the class started, and here we are. So I'm going to kind of wing it. It's usually where I work best anyway. So what we wanted to do, what Mark wanted me to do, was to go through in the codes the modification process we just finished with the state. So what we'll look at are all the modifications that we made to the upcoming code. The new code books are going to be the IRC, International Residential Code 2024 edition. We've got those books have now been printed. The state has gone through their modification process. We've made the modifications we're going to make. Those are in the process of being written up and distributed to the legislature, at which point it'll go into the legislature for promulgation. If nothing happens in the legislature, it tolls out in 120 days, which means it becomes law because they didn't do anything. It's usually what happens. The only time it never happened was 2009 when we had the huge battle over the sprinklers. So this is going to go into effect will probably be promulgated or tolled out in the next, probably by the end of January or February. And at that point, it will become part of the state registry, part of the law. So the good thing to remember, one thing to remember behind that is these modifications will then be applicable if you ask your building official and if he chooses to accept it. There is some stuff in here that could help you out, cost-wise, convenience-wise, and at that point you will be able to go to him and say, this has been recognized by the state as adopted code. Can you give me an alternate means and method to go ahead and start using it? Most of them will say yes. We had some stuff in the code when it was originally printed, but because the IRC, we hadn't gone through the process, we hadn't made it happen yet, and it hadn't finished the process, code officials wouldn't let us do it. So some of this stuff you will be able to use in the not too distant future. The code will actually go into effect on January 1, 2027. So we're going to have the full-blown codes classes throughout next year. Greenville has already booked theirs. Their first code class will be January 21st. I'll be teaching it. Most of these are half-day classes. They'll be like, a breakfast or a lunch class. It'll be breakfast in the morning, do a morning class, and we might do a lunch and do an afternoon class. Just watch your locals. Talk to your locals and ask them to go ahead and start booking these classes. I think the only one that doesn't use me is Horry Georgetown. Everybody else, I usually do Greenville a couple times, Charleston, which is where I'm from. By the way, I'm Andy Barber from Charleston. I own and operate Generation Homes, and I have been chairing the Building Codes Committee for the state HBA since 2006 or 9, I guess. I've been on the committee since 1999, so I kind of got stuck here and can't get out of it somehow or another. But at any rate, we'll be teaching these. I'll be teaching these across state. We usually do them Hilton Head, we'll do 1, Charleston 2, Columbia 2, Greenville we usually do 2. Aiken's had us down there a couple of times. They usually come up to Columbia. And then Florence, I'll usually do a CAT class in Florence as well. So keep your eyes out on your locals to get the whole class. Not a whole lot of changes going from 21 to 24 as the code is written. A lot of reorganization of the code book. They're slowly but surely making it easier to read. They finally figured out if you start at the dirt and finish at the roof, that's a good way to build a code book because that's kind of the way you build a house. And they've actually really reorganized the book, made it a whole lot easier to pair your way through. So this won't take too long, and I'm going to have to, because I can't see that. I had eye surgery 2 weeks ago, so I'm struggling up here. But because I thought we were going to have a whole different format. Didn't work. So this is the process we go through. This is the way the process works. The 2024 code's published by ICC. The state notifies its consumer base, its constituents. They're going to adopt the code. At that point, there's a 120-day open period that you can make comment. Anybody in the state, layman, general contractor, anybody in the state can ask that the code be modified for any reason whatsoever. All of those go into the state. They're all shared with concerned parties like the Home Builder Association, Fire Marshal's Office, Association of Building Inspectors. All of these guys get all this information. We review it. Then they appoint a study committee. It's an architect, an engineer, plumber, electrician, mechanical, fuel gas, layperson, residential builder, all sit on that board, and they review every one of those. They have hearings, and they go through every one of these, and you can see there's quite a bunch of them. So this is what we did for 3 days. We went through these one at a time. And this is the result of the study. What you see here is the result of the study group hearings. So a lot of this will go through pretty quickly. Some of it's been in the code for years. Some of it is new, and some of it got pulled out. So we'll kind of go through it. But this is the roster of everything we did. Once it goes through the study committee, if there are any changes, you'll see some of these were disapproved, some of these were approved as revised. LLR staff will revise that modification per the study committee's recommendations, and then once all that's done, it's all bundled up and sent to the Building Codes Council, which is 22 members of interested parties from across the state. Building Codes Council goes through this, and if it says approved in this column, this means in this document, this means the study committee approved it, says this is a great modification, we're behind it. If they disapproved it, or they may have modified it, some of them you'll see that they actually sent back to the proponent, which was usually us, the state HBA. So that's kind of how this document works. All of this then goes to the full board council. At that point, anybody, if you got disapproved, you could ask that it be pulled back and sent before the entire board, or you can just drop it and walk away from it. The board will usually take the recommendations of the study committee unless somebody says, I want you to pull this out and we need to discuss it again. We had a lot of that this year, more than we've ever had before, so it was quite a long day. I only got called a murderer once this year. I'm doing good. So at any rate, this is the document we're going to see. We'll go through these pretty quickly. Like I said, a lot of these are continuations, and I'll apologize because I'm going to have to kind of turn around and look at this thing. But things that didn't change at all, accepted engineering practice. These are definitions, chapter 2. This has been in there for 6, 8, 10 years. Basically, it just says, because there's so much engineering that happens, I'm from the coast, there's so much engineering that happens along the coast. It basically says that accepted engineering practice, if you have an architect or an engineer who designs something that's different from the code, the architect or engineer's design will override the code because they're taking responsibility for it. We get into a lot of that in Charleston. A lot of the areas, the Midlands up, you guys build prescriptively from the code. You don't see a whole lot of engineering going on in those. You can easily open up the code book and size your footing, size your foundation walls, size your rebar, all of that stuff. And the coast, because we've got seismic on the coast, we've got high winds on the coast, everything's engineered. We very seldom look at the code book. Kind of a pain in the ass. Some of these I got to kind of figure out. Crawl space, this did change slightly. You see in the purple and separated by a foundation wall. Issues we had with crawl spaces is a particular home inspector in the state was calling small stoops and porches where you have like a little 6x8 side porch and you put lattice around it. He was making builders go back and put access doors in that lattice to get in it because he said it was crawl space. So we modified the definition of a crawl space to basically say it was the under area floor of a house that didn't contain any mechanicals. So you get under those little porches, there's no electrical, plumbing, or mechanical. There's nothing to be accessed under there. Therefore, you don't need, to get to that space. There's no reason to get under there unless there's a problem with the floor system, then you're going to tear it all up anyway. Problem we had was some people weren't considering if you had that little area open to the actual crawl space. Like if your block work came around and stopped on each side of that little porch, then you had a couple of piers out there because that was open to the crawl space. That would now be considered part of the crawl space. So the goal of that is just block that off and make sure that's not attached in any way whatsoever, that you can't get from the actual crawl space under those porches, and you're fine. So that was the only change that came up in that, and we've had that going on for years. Sleeping loft is a whole new definition in the code. It's a major pain in the ass, and we just took it out. If you read through it, it goes on for several pages, but it tries to describe an area in a house that's meant for sleeping that doesn't really meet any other criteria in the house. And after we read through it, we were more confused, and the building officials were more confused about it, and we know what to do. We all agreed just to strike it altogether. It was a real interesting way to, all we could see was just more confusion on spaces in houses. Hell, it's hard enough to, everybody agree on what a bedroom is anymore, but yes, we just got rid of the definition of this sleeping loft. It was a mess. So it's completely gone. This just continues on because sleeping lofts were referred to throughout the code. We had to go through, and every place in the code we found the word sleeping loft, we had to go back and make some revisions to that. Let's see which one we got here. Wind design criteria. Anybody here on the coast, or is it just me? All right, y'all are going to love me. Wind design criteria, we've had a lot of problems with wind maps, seismic maps. FEMA's come back and they didn't like the way we did the last round of seismic maps. Then they were okay with it. We went back and forth several times about how to actually make these wind and seismic maps right. You used to be able to default to the old ASCE tool online, and that tool is gone now. And I think the new one, or it was the ASTM, I think the new one is the ASCE hazard tool. You can go and just Google that, just ASCE hazard tool. It'll pull up a little screen. You put your address or your coordinates, GPS coordinates in that. It will take you to that piece of property, and it will show you every code that applies to that piece of property. It'll give you the wind speed, it'll give you the seismic design required, it'll give you all of that. So we just decided that's going to be our tool. You can use the wind map if you want to, but quite honestly, if you get into this tool, it gives you everything. And the reason we kind of not folded, but the reason we decided this was going to be okay was I polled a bunch of engineers in Charleston. I'm like, do you look at the wind map? Nobody looks at those maps in the code book. Nobody. They all go to this tool. Every engineer goes to this tool. And for them, it's a liability thing because ASCE is their HBA. That's their, group. They designed this tool. So if they go in, the wind map says you can design at 135 mile an hour wind, but ASCE says you have to design at 138 mile an hour wind. The house blows down in a windstorm. Guess who's going to get sued? Structural engineer. And they're going to say, well, why didn't you use this website to verify it? So they go to that ASCE tool anyway, so that's what we're just telling the builders to do. Just go to that tool. That's what the building departments are going to use. It's the easiest way to get through it. And that's true for wind and the seismic maps. What else we got here? Still wind and seismic. See, all this stuff just goes away. Fire separation distances. They've added townhouse language in here, which didn't really do anything to this other than just add a bunch of reference notes. This is a continuation.
We just put a dimension wall in there.
Yeah. The only thing it did do on townhouses is when townhouses are offset, you don't have to wrap the corners. You just have to do the offsets. You don't have to continue it across the face of the building anymore. This we got added. The building officials came up with this idea. Oh, they don't have the picture in it. Sorry. The one I had a picture in it. aesthetic roof and siding projections on townhouses, where they used to be very, very strict. When there's a townhouse and you've got a demising wall, nothing can pass that demising wall going one way or the other. This actually allows you to go 16 inches into the other person, onto the other side of the wall. So if you've got a gable with a little, return, or what I always call a bird box, and it sticks into the other guy's thing, that is perfectly allowable now. It has to be a fire retardant material, so hardy or something like that. But you can have these projections. You can have a projection up to 16 inches of an aesthetic part of the structure go into the other person's space, cross that demising line. That was the one big change in all of that. This one, I don't know what the final was. We've been wrestling. Anybody here do townhouses, a bunch of townhouses? You having problems with meter locations?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've had problems with demising walls and where we got where the townhouse comes right up to the property line.
Yeah.
They're giving us a hard time. I've just had to spend $5,000 establishing setbacks and who owns what.
Yeah. It's Dominion's been a pain in our ass over this. Hope nobody in here from Dominion. I like them. I like the gas people. Electric people have been a problem. But a lot of places are making us go out and put, build monument walls and put all the meters on it. The problem with that is, then the builder's got to pay for the service from the monument wall to the unit, and then they want you to get, easements to go under the units. And we've just gone back and said, fine, put a meter on every house. And they're like, no, they're townhouses. It doesn't work that way. Well, a townhouse is technically a single family residence, so we're at war with them.
When we permit them, as single family.
Yeah, a townhouse is a single family residential unit. And Dominion, or your provider, must provide service to that unit. And they're going back now and telling developers they have to provide all those services to a monument wall. Then they're responsible for the leader from the meter or from the disconnect all the way to the building, which just means the utility provider's saving a ton of money because they're running everything to one location and stopping it. They're not having to pay for that wire and that conduit all the way over to the unit anymore. So
I have a hard time getting them to do it anyway.
yeah, it's pain in the ass. People wonder why it costs so much to build houses. This hasn't changed. Penetrations through the walls, that's still pretty much there. Just through wall penetrations and fire resistant walls, that's always been like that. We've actually had some people that were trying to run all the utilities through the attics, and that didn't work.
Have you had any experience with using the foam on the demising walls instead of the gypsum?
I haven't.
We saw that at IBS, that could be a way of solving that issue.
Really?
It's a fire rated spray foam.
Huh. Hadn't seen that.
We're working through it now, but kind of interested in looking at that. Pretty expensive.
I'm sure. Nothing good's ever cheap.
And the foam might be cheaper.
This continues on. I still get calls on this once a month from somebody. The door going from the fire rated door going from the house to the garage, in the code says that door has to have an automatic closer on it. That has been taken out of the code. I actually yelled at my door supplier because he still puts them on. He's like, well, it's code. I'm like, no, it's not, because I hate them. I'm going in and out of the house and the door keeps shutting behind me and it pisses me off. But this is out of the code. You do not have to put these in. Your building official will probably tell you have to. Just remind him that you don't. Like I said, you've got this in the code as it is. You've got these modifications. When the South Carolina book is actually printed, because this whole code will be reprinted as the South Carolina Residential Building Code, all of these modifications are baked into it. So if you open the code and look for this, the South Carolina Building Code, you will not find it because we struck it. So just keep that in mind. When that South Carolina Residential Code is published, if you get that code, it replaces the IRC 2024 book. It's the South Carolina custom version of that code. Building officials won't get them. They'll use the IRC, and then you've got to remind them of a lot of these modifications.
And home inspectors will bust you off.
Don't even get me started on it. That's a whole nother class. That's a whole nother griping session right there. Floor assemblies, this is a rollover. This came back through. Habitable space above, yep. Basically, the building code says when you have a crawl space, you have to fireproof the floor between the bottom of the floor and the dirt. Basically, they want you to sheetrock the bottom of your floor system in a crawl space. Dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. We took it out. This has been a rollover for, God, since 2015. So this has been around a while. Everybody should know about it. Do what?
Just where are we putting it?
They want you to sheetrock the bottom of the floor in a crawl space. So when the homeowner stores his lawnmower under there and it catches on fire, it doesn't burn the house down.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
This one's been rolling around since 2012. Yeah. Field treatment, the only change on this was the item number. You're supposed to field treat your cuts on treated lumber. When you cut a treated board, you're supposed to field treat the end of it, just like you do with Hardy and stuff like that. None of the manufacturers have required it. A lot of them recommend it. We just took the requirement out and said follow the manufacturers. I've had one building official since 2012 call me up and say, this guy doesn't have the right paperwork. I'm like, okay, so builder, go get your paperwork. I don't know of a manufacturer. We've looked at all the major manufacturers of treaters of pressure treated lumber. Nobody has required it. They all recommend it. Nobody's required
I'll
it.
tell you, you should do it, because you're going to be going back 5 years from
You think?
now. Believe me, you will. And if you cut it or plane it or do anything, you're gonna hear about it.
Well, I used to work for a company in Charleston, a lumber company that had their own treating cylinder, and they sold the little things of it. It looks like the cans of pipe cleaner and pipe glue, like plumber's glue. And I always wondered what it was, and it's CCA, it's chromium cyanide arsenic. I'm like, why would somebody want this rolling around the back of their truck? There's enough cyanide in here to kill a small town. And yeah, people are rolling, they paint it on there and like, okay, whatever.
Have you had to address, so we're building 3-story townhouses and we got a little elevator up there and we got a little space up there. Anywhere you know where they're addressing that so we
I
can
didn't.
use that space? Well, I got a 3rd floor,
Mhm.
deck. You're gonna see a lot of that. And then I got an elevator up there, a little storage room. They're going, oh, you can't have anything in there, this, you gotta go commercial if you go that way.
Oh, they're considered a 4th floor?
Correct.
Yeah,
But there must be a limit, just like there's a limit.
there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll actually get to that.
You will,
Yeah, we'll get to that. This has been rolling around since 2018. Basically, we just added a sentence under termite treatment that said if Clemson says you can do it, you can do it. That's really all this says. Because termite treatments evidently change every 37 seconds, and Clemson seems to be at the forefront of that. Foam plastic protection. In crawl spaces, who was doing all the encapsulation? Talking about, yeah, okay. You're hiding in the back. We don't do any very little encapsulation in Charleston just because of the termite issues. But this has bounced around since 2018 with the witness. You have to have a witness gap around in the crawl space. If you're foaming or if you're insulating the actual crawl space walls, you've got to leave that 6-inch witness around your mud sill, because termites will only crawl through. They won't, they'll build a mud tube once they get out of the ground or out of the material. They'll build a mud tube, so they want that 6-inch witness. I will personally say I just had this happen on a house in 41 years of being in the building. Never had a problem. We just did a house in Mount Pleasant, and we built it. We went in, and we don't encapsulate our crawl spaces. We do enclosed crawl spaces, so it's not encapsulation. We build the standard crawl space. We put a 10 mil non-rip fabric down, run it a foot up the walls, tape it and glue it to the wall, and then we insulate the floor normally. We actually found a framer had done something and left a piece of wood, and it got buried, and the guys put the fabric over it, and the termites got into that wood, and then they made their way up, and then they came out the top of that stuff, and they built a mud tube up. And it's the first time I've ever had it happen in my life, but it made me think of this. you have to leave some kind of a witness in there, because the guy came back to do the final termite inspection. He's like, you got termites. I'm like, oh, shit. And we did. And I mean, luckily we only had 1 or 2 tubes, and there was no damage. We made it go away very, very fast. But yeah, all because somebody left a piece of wood laying under there that didn't get cleaned out. But at any rate, so you've got to leave this witness gap. If you're foaming or if you're doing encapsulated crawl space, you've got to leave that gap, because they'll go through that foam right up into the framing in a heartbeat. This is just the second page of that. What else they give us? Flood resistant construction. Okay, that was moved. I have no clue what that is. It's kind of empty anyway. This came out, this actually got pulled out. This was a standing modification since 2018. We used to have this last sentence, where there's a conflict in the section between locally adopted flood reference, the more restrictive provisions shall apply. So if you had FEMA saying this and Charleston County saying this, whoever's was the most stringent applied. Now it's FEMA. We had some issues. Anybody here from Georgetown County? Yeah, you know, Georgetown County came through and tried to get a lot of their coastal A, that whole thing exempted, and that went poorly. So a lot of changes with this. We used to say whichever, now it's just going to be FEMA.
So the municipality can't have a separate flood?
A more restrictive flood.
That's awesome.
Really?
It depends on how they do it. If they do it by building code, no. If they do it by ordinance, there's a chance they can get away with it. Charleston County is working on their ordinance, and
Barber has a flood ordinance.
Yeah.
Baseline of 13 feet, no matter what FEMA says.
Yeah, and Beaufort and Bluffton are high on our radar of targets over this right now, because they basically, and they went by ordinance to do this,
Right.
and we've basically found a legal loophole around that. Unfortunately, there's nobody down there with a brain we can talk to, so we're working on it. This stuff takes time. I just call it. I've been doing this for 41 years. I call it as I see it, guys. I'm sorry. I'm too old. I'm too old just to try to be nice anymore. Okay, this is the second page of that where we struck that. As I'm reading, fire sprinklers, no changes. They made a note, then they struck it out. Like I said, I'm reading. These are notes from LLR staff. So. This was the great fire sprinkler debate of 2009. We still don't have to sprinkle homes. There is a change when you get, Alan was talking about 3- and 4-story structures. There is a change when you get to that 4th-story structure now that has to do with fire sprinklers. So when we get to that, we'll talk about it. But when we get to that, we'll talk about it. I'll get too far out of whack with it. Story above grade plane, and there it is. So we've had issues years and years ago in the coastal areas, like in Charleston. If your first floor was elevated because you were in flood, you got a pass. It didn't count as a floor. So first floor didn't count, you built 3 stories above it. Easy peasy. Well, the Structural Engineers Association went nuts over this, and they came in and said first floor should count because of height and overturning of buildings, and I get it. So they came back and said, we want that to count as that, but we're going to give you what we call a habitable attic. So you can go up and build a 3rd story as long as it's contained within the attic. And it was very loosely written, so it worked well back in 2009, I guess, maybe 12. And we got in a big battle over it. And me and the fire chief and the guy from the Structural Engineers Association, literally 2 o'clock in the morning, struck a deal. Deal was first floor is a level, 3rd floor is habitable attic, everybody's happy. So we've got through with it. Since then, they've been chipping away at the habitable attic, more and more and more and more. Now, the last round, habitable attic was 75%. So if your first floor, or if your floor on the 2nd floor, Alan, this is where you need to pay attention. So if your second floor is 1,000 square feet, you used to be able to get that 3rd floor and call it habitable attic, or that upper level habitable attic, up to 75% of the floor below it. You couldn't have any projections over it, like you couldn't build out over a porch or a screen porch or a deck. You couldn't have like window seats or bay windows projecting. Now, no projections, had to be over 75%. This year, the code cut it back to 33%, and you had to sprinkle it. So now, this was a big deal. The fire marshal's office was big on this. We brought it back, and now it's half. So it's 50% of the floor below. So the first floor, if you're in drive under, first floor is a floor, second floor, third floor, and then if you have that attic area or anything above that attic area, it has to be less than, so if it's a mechanical room, if it's less than 70 feet and has a ceiling of less than 7 feet high, it does not count. So if you just got a mechanical room up there, it doesn't count. We've had jurisdictions get up there and people do trusses and put a big HVAC platform up there, and they'll go up there and go, it's habitable space. And it's just a platform in a truss system. They're calling it habitable space, and technically the building official is correct because it's more than 70 square feet's not much. That's 4 sheets of plywood. So be very, very careful. When I build, we build them, and we'll put like an attic frame truss up there, and I make sure the truss manufacturer builds it where that ceiling height is 6 feet 11 and a half inches. And the only reason I do that is to piss off Charleston County. Charleston County is not allowed to climb a ladder in an inspection. So I make it 6 feet 11 and a half inches, and Charleston County will go out there and go, that's too high. I'm like, no, it's not, go measure it. We're not allowed to climb ladders. I'm like, okay then. So that's the only reason I do it.
So
Okay.
Are you saying that a raised beach house, let's say you have a parking lot there,
Mm-hmm.
and then living level number 1,
Yep.
living level number 2,
Then you're done.
level number 3 is no longer allowed?
Living levels number 3 is allowed, but it bumps you into the IBC, and as a residential contractor, you can't build it. You have to have a commercial builder's license to build it.
When did that happen? I just built one like 2 years ago.
You got away with it then. I've seen people get away with it in Charleston. But yeah, it's,
So any raised 3-story home is now going to be under IBC?
It's a 4-story, classified as a 4-story.
it's classified as 4-story. The first level counts. So if you've got a drive under and 3 levels above, that's a commercial build. That goes to the IBC. Now the third,
the jurisdiction to
no.
determine that?
The plans examiner should be catching. Now that third level can be considered habitable attic.
Oh,
And
it's
again,
on the floor.
yeah, if it's 20 feet wide by 60 feet long on all 4 levels, yeah, that's an IBC house. So
That's terrible.
yeah, it is. And it has to be sprinkled.
So where are we at with getting our license fixed so that can be done?
We're working on it. We've tried to get it in the last licensing bill that we had that failed. That was in there. Basically, it takes that restriction out. And I'm the one, I've been beating Mark Nix about the head and face with this for 10 years because I think it's inappropriate to divide, to take, speak of the devil.
Oh, gosh.
I just threw you under the bus so bad.
On which one?
The licensing bill. We're talking about 4-story structures.
Okay, that's going to pass.
Says Mark Nix in
Are
2009.
there any attorneys in here? Those sons of guns. Those,
Yeah.
We would have had it passed if it wasn't for the attorneys.
We really would have.
They wanted, just so you know, the attorneys wanted to use your bond to pay for legal fees on the last week of session to get it passed. Wait, let me ask you, can I quiz them real quick? Is there anything you're looking at about what the hell we are doing on that building? Which one? Which one? Oh. You know, these are modifications, by the way.
These are the study committee. This is all I got, study committee. So
Oh, yeah, I can tell you, you were on it. We had a lot of people. There's a ton of work. We had a whole year, so I appreciate when you actually got work.
yeah.
Are you done with me now? Are you done making fun?
You can leave because I need to finish talking about you.
4-story. It's going to be it's going to be more than 4 stories. It could be
20 stories.
Renovations on any kind of high rises and everything else. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
So that's looking good. All right. Thanks a lot.
So yeah, my problem with that whole thing is, and my explanation to the Building Codes Council is, so you're telling me I can build a $50 million 3-story house, but I can't build an $800,000 4-story house? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, think about what you just said. So yeah, we're going to get rid of that. Now, you'll still be able to build it as a residential builder as long as it's residential in nature, residential classification of the occupancy, but you're going to have to build it to the IBC code. So, and the IBC and the IRC aren't that much different. I'm getting ready to go sit for my IBC license, my commercial license, and it's not that much different. It's a little stricter, especially when it comes mainly with electrical. So, anyway.
We're doing 3-story residential.
Yeah, 3 stories the limit
Yeah.
under a residential license.
The issue I'm running into is when they want to put a toilet and a sink up there
Yeah.
on that rooftop deck.
Yep,
I don't think we're going to win that.
you're not. We just went through that with the city of Charleston on, and again, I kind of blame it on the architects. The architect drew this beautiful house and had this little area up there, and they kicked it back to the builder, and the builder called me. I'm like, yeah, can't build it. He's like, well, what the hell? No.
Yeah, they don't want to come off that 3rd floor deck.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, if you hold a permit under your commercial license, you cannot be your own electrical contractor. plumber.
Yeah,
You have to have a sub.
If it's 20% or more of the value of the home, and you don't have that
with the
classification or whatever.
with that, you lose the ability to do all your own trade work.
You can do it on a residential.
Yeah, you can do it on residential, but not on that.
Would they require architect stamp plans?
All of them do for me.
Pretty much, yeah. Like I said, everything I do on the coast is engineered anyway,
It's not
but
architecturally stamped though.
I don't know
What about elevators? That seems to be the booger.
for what.
If you go to commercial, do you got to put a commercial elevator in? They
No.
still use the residential.
No, still, as long as it's residential use.
So built to commercial but residential use.
Yeah,
Considered
it's-
for elevator only. You see how nasty this is getting?
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not easy to dissect all that, that's for sure. But yeah, so at any rate, the habitable attics have changed so much since 2000. Well, this is 21 when it was last revised, but I think it was 9, maybe 2009. Habitable attics really went through started getting ugly, and now they just continue to get uglier. What is this one? Floor elevation, required floor. Okay, this was mine. I brought this up because I got tired of Charleston County. Did y'all figured out I don't like Charleston County yet? It's a love-hate relationship.
You're selling building supplies, now that you're a contractor, you've got so emotionally involved.
I have. It's funny how that changed. And I quit drinking, so I got to have some outlet. So
That's a bad thing.
building code says that the old building code said that the way that you had to measure from the top of the threshold to the exterior part of the floor. So when you walked out of a house, the top of the threshold to the walking surface exterior of the house couldn't be more than 1.5 inch difference. Well, in Charleston and along the coast, where we're doing, having to have wind rated doors, I've got sliding glass doors with damn 2-3 inch thresholds on them. So the problem is, if you did that, your deck was higher than the floor of your house. And that's just a really bad idea. Anybody can figure that out. So we went back and forth with it, so we finally got it changed just to basically say that the landings, the finished floor required egress, 1.5 inches lower than the top of the primary floor level. So you got floor level, you go down 1.5 inches, deck level or porch level, doesn't matter what the threshold is. We took the threshold out of it. It's just based on floor levels now. So if you trip and bust your butt, don't call me. I'm just telling you. So we had that changed, and that was a big deal in Charleston because they were literally making us build decks higher than house. Welcome to my world.
Common sense is a thing.
Oh my God, there's no common sense in this world. Which one is this? Structural Engineer Association. This one can't be good. Risers. Oh, risers. That hasn't changed. NAHB pushes this down my throat every single solitary year, trying to get the risers back to 8 1/4. They'll never go back to 8 1/4. Just deal with it. And I tell them that. We told them that in the last meeting, and I'll tell them that in Denver this fall. This isn't going to change. Opening between adjacent treads is not limited on stairs with total rise of 30 inches. Adjacent treads is not. I don't know what that meant, so I'm not going to say anything about it or I'll screw it up.
It didn't change.
Hmm?
Same as.
Yeah, well, there was a note at the bottom. There's an exception. The opening between
they just
adjacent
changed.
treads is not limited on stairs with a total rise of 30 inches.
They just changed the numbers.
Yeah. Guard show, okay. Where required guards.
This is the rail issue. Yeah.
This didn't change. Oh, this is a continued modification. This goes all the way back to 12. It's just a continued. Window fall protection. This is where I got called a baby killer. It's better. 3 years ago, I was a baby killer and I killed dogs. So, all because of garage door openers. But window fall protection, we took this completely out of the code. So, if you're dealing with windows, the code says you can't raise a window more than 4 inches and it has to stop. And you have to unlatch it and continue to raise it. It's called window fall protection, so children can't fall out of windows. The 4 inches is the same as stairs, which is the size of a child's head, or so I've been told. I don't know. But at any rate, we had this completely taken out of the code because personally, I think it's a direct contradiction. In the beginning of the code, it says you cannot require special knowledge or tools to escape the residence in a fire. In my opinion, that's special knowledge. You've got to know how to unlatch these windows because they don't all work the same. Some of them have the little ears that flip down. When the window goes down, these little ears pop out and you got to push them in and push it up. I've seen it where it takes 2 people to open a window. So at any rate, we got into it with this again because several people wanted this pulled out and wanted that language back in the code. And the example I was given was in Colombia 3 or 4 years ago. A grandmother was babysitting her 2-year-old grandson, and he fell out of a window. He fell on a 4-story, it was 5th floor. Basically, she set him in the window to entertain him, and he leaned on the screen popped out, he fell and died. So this is my fault, according to the guy on the board, and it's at this point, I'd been in there for about 6 hours and I lost it. And I yelled at the guy, at which point Molly turned and yelled at me. But I yelled at the guy. I said, first of all, it's a 5-story building. It's not IRC, it's IBC. So you have to have, that's one of those crossover things. IBC, you still have to have those window devices. This is not taken out in IBC. So first of all, that's IBC, doesn't matter. It's a non-starter right from there. Secondly, it doesn't matter. Grandma set the kid in the window. A 2-year-old's not going to get up there and read instructions to figure out how to unlock this window and open it. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, this is the only time I got charged with killing any living, breathing thing this year. But yeah, so this has been taken out of the code altogether. Windows can go to the floor. There's no restrictive devices that need to be applied to them. I still see some windows that come with it. A lot of the window manufacturers will tell you that they have to do it. A lot of them say they don't manufacture windows without them anymore. So just be aware of it. You don't have to have it. I've seen them. I've had them come in on windows with window manufacturers like architects spec something. I said I don't want it. They're like, we don't build it without it. And then the homeowners are always bitching. They're, why can't I raise my window? Well, you got to raise it up. You got to push these in. Get your husband to come grab it and push it the rest of the way up. And it is what it is. But it's out of the code. This is part of the energy code. We got it taken out. This is something we learned this year. Since 2003, we've had a modification in the code that allows you, and you can't see this because it's great graphics here. Basically, when you set a tub, fixture clearances in bathrooms. When you set a tub, it has to have 15 inches of clearance on each side. We put an exception in there that said unless the tub is up against a shower or the toilet's up against a shower or a tub. So if you've got a toilet, you need 15 inches center line either side, unless it's up against a shower or bathtub, then it can be 12 inches from the center of the toilet to the edge of that surface. What we never realized that this, and there's another section in the back, which this, I don't think this slide's going to have it, also referenced vanities. Did you know that using a 24-inch vanity was illegal? Never knew it in my whole life. Some building official in Pooler, Georgia figured that out. He read the code book one day. You'd think we'd have done that. And he's like, that 15 inches applies to sinks as well. So technically a 30-inch vanity is the smallest vanity you can put in a house.
So pedestal sinks are illegal?
Yeah, it still has to be 15 inches from the center line of the sink to a wall. And the other thing we kind of went back and forth about was, well, the end of the sink is the toilet. So then they're like, okay, you got to have 30 inches from the center line of the toilet to the center line of the sink. So we went back and forth on all these dimensions with all the code officials. And so we put this modification in and it went through. So now it's center line of toilet to a tub or shower is 12 inches, center line of toilet to a vanity or to a wall is 15 inches, center line of vanities is 12 inches. So you can go back, you can now, January of next year, you can now use, and it was funny, I brought this up to some code officials that I trust in a meeting that I knew weren't going to go out and start enforcing. I'm like, did y'all know this? They're like, no. Some guy found it and made basically, I think it was Lennar Horton had like 36 townhomes in Pooler, Georgia, and they told them they had to go in and tear all, because they had the little vanities under the stairs, they told them they had to go and tear them all out. Yeah, it sucked. So anyway, this is a big change coming up for something you didn't even know you needed to change. You're welcome. Again, this is prescriptive code for piers. This hasn't changed at all. Just gives you the heights you can build piers to based on the width. Unvented crawl space is what I was talking about earlier. This is what I build in Charleston if I build a crawl space. It's just an unvented crawl space. We build a continuous masonry wall. We put a couple of doors in, they're sealed. We build a standard floor. We insulate it normally, and we put that 10 mil rip-proof fabric down, vapor barrier on the floor, turn it up the walls, all the piers a foot, glue it, tape it, seal it, and put a dehumidifier into there. Best crawl space you'll ever put in your life. Trust me. They're not that cheap. I mean, they're not that expensive either. They're not cheap, but they're not horrible. It's a whole lot less than the first time I did a house with LVP. Have anybody ever done LVP over a crawl space and not had a problem? First house I ever did with LVP was 9 years ago. When LVP came out, everybody thought it was great. Put it in, we built the house, vented crawl space, no big deal. And then the moisture built up on the bottom of the LVP and rotted out all the subfloor and the whole house. $38,000 fix. That sucked. Yeah, so now we don't build over crawl spaces unless we, and then this is the rule around that. We did a couple little changes on it, but nothing major. Well, it's unvented. This is just the rest of that. Just, again, anything in purple is just stuff that they cleaned up. Just Scribner stuff. Accesses for crawl spaces, this didn't change, just says you can't. The code says you can't put a crawl space access under a door or a window. You ever seen houses with doors and windows all the way around them and you got to figure out where to put a crawl space access? Well, technically you can't put it under a door or window. We just took that out. That's reoccurring since 2012. Underfloor vapor retarder. This is going to come back. Actually, I pissed off some people bad with this. Again, I just call it as I see it. In the building code now, they want you to, like I said, you had to sheetrock the bottom of floor joists. We got rid of that. Now they want you to come back and put a vapor barrier on the bottom of the floor system. So they want you to insulate your floor and then seal the bottom of the floor system with a vapor barrier.
They've never lived in the South.
Yeah. And literally, the girl from, wasn't AGC, I don't think. Oh, God, who is she from? There's a girl from, it was the Wood Institute. She literally when they ruled against her in this, she got up and sneered at me and walked out of the room. And I talked with the guys, a guy from Atlanta, is some engineer there. They're trying to push this. They're trying to figure out a way to bring this back. But I just think it's the dumbest thing in the world. You'll never seal that up. I said, you're going to make it worse because it's not going to be sealed. It's not going to be perfect. Then you're just going to trap the moisture. Like if y'all want to make sure, and the whole thing is about LVP floors, which was my problem. I said, if y'all want to make all this go away, just outlaw vented crawl spaces in South Carolina. That'd be easier than doing this. But at any rate, this is in the code. We had it taken out, but they're pushing really hard to bring this back.
In the floor system.
Yeah. See, we don't do anything in Charleston. I mean, we've gotten letters from all of our termite people. So if you use foam below the living space, we're not going to write a bond on it, period. End of story.
No, but it's in the floor system. The bottom of the floor system.
Yeah. I use it in drive-unders because you can't insulate that area. But yeah, if you put it in a floor system with a crawl space, none of my termite people write a bond on that anymore. The only way they'll do it is if it's a drive-under, they have a problem with it because it's, you're 9-10 feet up and you'll be able to see the termites, but they have a real issue with termites and foam.
Oh, yeah.
Truss design drawings, this hasn't changed. However, Charleston County figured this out. You may see it come up in other areas. Charleston County has now considered this because you're having trusses designed by an engineer who's not the engineer of record for the building. If you're getting engineered drawings done, some jurisdictions are now making you have the engineer of record approve the truss drawings and then send them to the county before they will do your framing inspection. So watch out for it. If you're building in an area where you're using a lot of engineering, Charleston County started this, so I fully expect to see other counties follow suit. Most counties don't along the coast. Charleston County is the outlier, and everybody's like, why do you want to do this? Well, we're going to make sure the structural engineer sees it.
Well, they got in trouble at Del Webb.
Oh,
Built
everybody.
hundreds of homes, followed the engineered drawings with the trusses, didn't meet code, and they sued them, and they made the county be responsible.
Yeah,
And we're catching hell down there because of it.
really?
Oh, yeah, that's where it started.
Great. It's your fault.
Well, Del Webb.
Which is funny because the person who was working for Beaufort County at that time is now the chief building official of Charleston.
Well, he remembers the
We're
pay.
sending his ass back down there is what we're going to do.
Akeem? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. We can keep him.
No, he says he's going to retire
Still
next year.
lives in Beaufort.
Yeah, I know. And I've got a real problem with him driving a company vehicle, but never mind. Vapor retarder. This is one of the things that'll save
Way
you.
back, guys. Way
Yeah,
back.
way back. Vapor retarder, we got this reversed. And they actually took it out of the code this year. They came back. Vapor retarder under slabs was 6 mil, then it was 10, we're back to 6. This is one of the things I think you'll see when the code is published, once it's done and published, and before it goes into effect. This is something I would take to your building code official and say, look, this is now a part of the South Carolina, this is going to be a part of the new South Carolina code. It's been approved by the state. Can I start using it as alternate means and method? And their answer should be yes.
And where would we get that record? Where would we be able to pull that from if I go home today and?
Well, today it doesn't exist because I don't even have it. But once it's published, once it goes through its promulgation process, so probably January, February,
Okay.
it'll be approved by the legislature.
Gotcha.
So therefore, it will technically be active. It just won't be enforced until 27.
Okay.
Wait till y'all see the 2027 code. What else? Piers, nothing changed here. That's old. Again, just showing you how to do it if you're not doing engineering. Truss design drawings, again, you just have to have a time of inspection unless you've got a screwed up county like me.
Underlayment.
Yeah. Anybody on the coast wrestle double underlayment with roofing?
Yeah, I was gonna mention
doing
that. Yes, they changed that.
You getting?
Gone.
Oh, it's gone.
Took it out. You're welcome.
We went to
about
high
You can make check out to Andy Barber. More than happy to give you my routing number. No, this was a big deal. This is a big litigious situation. There's a large lawsuit going on right now with a home inspection company that's just made this their deal. But the code was changed in the last cycle where it wasn't a double layer, but it was a way you had to overlap the underlayment to make it a double layer, or you had to use, ice and water. We just use ice, and I spent the money. The custom home, it's easy. Not easy, but we just put ice and water on the whole thing, and it exempted us from it, so it didn't matter. But if you were using a, felt paper or a, synthetic underlayment, you had to overlap them in certain ways. Well, synthetic underlayment was a different size than felt paper, so we had to do an amendment to where we could overlap that with certain things. All that's gone away. And it was easy enough to explain it to the council in the manner they're like, why does this exist? And the opponent to this is like, well, when the shingles blow off in a hurricane, we want to make sure the house is still waterproof. And my retort was, I'm sorry, if you blow off architectural shingles in a hurricane, number 15 felt paper doesn't stand a chance in hell. I don't care how many layers of it you got. And they're like, you're right. So I was shocked this past. This was another one of mine, personal ones. I was shocked this past. But yeah, you will not have to do the double layer overlap anymore.
Do you think manufacturers will write it in that if you're in a coastal zone, you have to do the underlimit to receive their warranty?
No.
No?
What's the warranty got to, what are they warranting?
The ability for that shingle to perform in that area.
The underlayment doesn't have anything to do with the shingle.
High nail wind pattern.
Yeah, high wind, yeah.
Yeah, 6 nails.
The
or something.
underlayment manufacturers could write something in as a recommended use.
I feel like Atlas has. Whatever I find out, communicate with you.
Yeah, let me know. But I mean, it's,
They're going to want to sell that.
Yeah.
They're going to want to sell me more some at 60.
no, they're not.
Oh, trust me.
There's a thousand. There's a class action lawsuit that's got over 1,200 houses in it on the coast of South Carolina. They're being sued. The shingle guys are being sued. The installers are being sued. The builders are being sued. Every single one of them is being sued.
For what?
$147 million.
Yeah, but like, what's the?
They're saying it was all installed improperly, and they're saying that the shingle guy didn't tell this guy. And that, if you've ever been sued, you know, everybody gangs up on everybody, and yeah, everybody's pointing at everybody else. So we just make it go away. Just say don't do it. Yeah.
So that's why you think that'll happen.
Yeah. This is more of that going through back to 2015. Drip edge, as y'all know, drip edge we took out of the code. Some shingle suppliers do require it. Just pay attention to your shingle supplier. I think everybody does it. Problem we had with it was, if you're using aluminum fascia, a lot of those guys will bend it into that when they do their fascia. That's fine. If you do it, if you put a drip edge on, that's fine. The problem we had was because it was required by code, we had so many jurisdictions wanted drip edge inspections. They wanted to add an inspection. So, energy code we took out years ago, and we defaulted back to our state. State has an energy code, so we took Chapter 11 out altogether. That's worked pretty well. We've been getting a lot of pushback lately. Mark and I are meeting with NAHB next Tuesday, and we're meeting with a couple of state senators who think we need to upgrade our energy code a little bit. We have no intention of going back and allowing Chapter 11 back in or adopting IECC. It's just way too restrictive. It's extremely expensive. They're like, oh, it's only $14,000 to $24,000 a house. Only, yeah, on a standard house. So
I really don't care how they do it in California.
yeah. Yeah, and most of the energy code is built on heat loss. We don't lose a lot of heat in South Carolina, especially on the coast. Up here, y'all might get a little bit more, but so the entire energy code, energy's chapter is taken out of the code completely. South Carolina has a standalone code, which is the 2009 IECC.
How bad is North Carolina's?
It's not too bad. I got a friend of mine that builds in Asheville, and he doesn't complain about it.
So theirs is not anywhere near what these senators are saying
No.
we should do.
No.
So they're just talking out their ass.
Well, there's $34 million in the federal government.
Yeah,
So,
they're after the money.
so they want the money. So the federal government says if you go to the latest edition of the bill of the energy code, we'll give South Carolina $34 million. Well, the senators are like, okay, build 10,000 houses. It costs $34,000. They do all this math. We'll just give the money to the consumer, and in the end, the consumer will get a better house and save money on their utility bills. We all know if you give a government group $34 million to distribute it, like 12 cents makes it to the consumer. So it's just not going to happen. So we pushed back, and the state did not accept the money. We did accept the money in 2009. We were 2006 IECC. They came in and said, if you go to 2009, we'll give you that. Back then it was like $17 million. So, okay, caveat is every time a new code comes out, you agree to review it. Okay, so every time a new code comes out, I'm like, it's pretty, no. And we don't have to pay the $17 million back. So, but now there's $34 million at stake, and that all came out in the, I guess it was Biden? I don't think it went as far back as Obama, but I think it,
2001, right?
yeah, it was, well, that was the original money. The second round of money, the $34 million, was part of the Biden, one of their Build Back, thank you, yeah, Build Back Better thing. And that's where that money came from, and we just refused it.
That's the best thing you ever did.
Yeah, it's hard for me to turn down money, but you know. Secondary drain systems. What the hell is this? Oh, this was another Andy code change. Oh, I forgot about this one. I just had this line struck in the code because it's causing confusion. If you read the mechanical chapter, it basically says when you have a drain pan under an AC unit, you've got your air handler in the attic, you've got a drain, you have to, the code, and I'm not going to go through and try to read it because A, I can barely see it, and B, it's fuzzy as hell. You have to have a float switch, and basically it says if you have a pan, you have to drain that, you have to run a drain out of that pan to the exterior of the house, unless you have two shutoffs, one in the main line, one in the pan. So I would put one in the main line, one in the pan, and we would just plug the drain. And the building officials and a particular home inspector, who remained nameless, was busting me on it on my houses. And I had to fight this battle every single time. Well, the home inspector's going back telling the homeowners, well, this drain pan's going to fill up with water, it's going to overflow, and your ceiling's going to cave in. And I'm like, we have two systems. We have a overflow, or we have a shutoff in the main line if it clogs. We have a float switch in the pan if it fills up with water. And the guy's like, well, what if the float switch malfunctions? I'm like, well, what if the float switch malfunctions and bees build a nest in the drain line outside? He goes, well, that'd never happen. I'm like, happened on my personal house. Bees built a nest in that tube. They got up in there, dirt daubers got up in there and built a nest, clogged it up. It backed up into the thing. Float switch shut it off. I said, but what you're allowing people to do is to drain that water out. So your system's malfunctioning. Water's dripping into the pan, it's running out of the house, and nobody ever fixes it because it's always just running out. I said, if you block it and it fills up, it'll shut off. The homeowner's going to call a heating and air guy. He's going to come and fix the system. I said, otherwise, you've just got you've got water running through this system for a year until the HVAC tech, if the homeowner has a year, has somebody come back every year and check it. So at any rate, I actually got this changed where